So thank you all for coming today. This is a Birmingham AI meetup. Who's been here before? Awesome. And who is this their first meeting? There we go. I love that. That's awesome. That's exciting. We've continued to just be amazed at how many people show up to these things. My co-founder, Austin, can't be here today, but we created this almost 2 years ago. June will be our second anniversary, which is mind-blowing to think about. But we thought, hey, 15, 20 people would show up to this meetup. We've done these tech meetups before. We know how it goes. And the fact that 2 years later, we are packing out this room, we don't have enough seats for everybody, is just a testament to all of you who've chosen to come and spend 90 minutes with us today. So thank you for coming. Our mission is to accelerate Birmingham's AI adoption by all. So a lot of you are not technical, and you shouldn't be left out of this AI wave. We want to empower you and give you tools that you can take back to your company today and start to use. Birmingham AI is only possible thanks to a number of partners and sponsors who come alongside us and pay for the pizza and the space and all of that. And we have a great sponsor today, Think Data Solutions, and I would like to welcome Robin up to the stage to give a few words.
Thank you. I don't have a presentation slides, but I do have a little talk prepared. I don't know how many of you actually know me, but when they give the mic to the vendor at presentations like this, I hate that. I actually do. And there's a reason why I hate it. I think it's sometimes a waste of time. And time is a non-renewable resource. And so I don't know why you wouldn't take advantage of it. But Austin said, because we're friends, I have 4 minutes, and I've used about 30 seconds of it already. So that puts me at about 12.5%. So 14 years ago, Daniel Bishop and I founded Think Data with a simple idea. What if we taught people to just think about data? Think about how to use it for processes, improve things, not just charts and dashboards, but really think about data. And we founded it 14 years ago, eat cupcakes, please, for our birthday, in the back of this building before it was completely defined. We graduated out of here probably 8 years ago. So for those of you who have businesses here, we're 14. I think that's a good testament to building in the ecosystem. In that time frame, we support over 40 companies. The average age of our client base is with us is 7 years. We don't think that's just retention. We believe that is relationship. But Think Data, at our core, we believe in the workforce. Not just the executives, but the users, the technical people, the business users, and of course the data professionals. So much so that you can get our data education in 17 different languages across the world. You may not know that. Not just videos, but full-on data education and data systems. We begin with our workforce, starting with early childhood education. And in the 14 years, we've seen an increase from 2,000 children being served to over 30,000 children being served. That means more kids learning, more kids eating, if you don't know the stats. And we don't believe that's a KPI. We think that's a kitchen table outcome to be proud of. We also have a federally registered data apprenticeship with 7 active apprenticeship companies, 4 current companies with 9 data apprentices in tow, and we'll be launching more in August. We're pretty excited about that. When people expand their skills, it creates positive outcomes, lots of good, not just for them, but for the organizations that invest in them. Truly workforce development. Now, if you've ever seen one of my talks, I like to talk about data. And most of you may, if you know me, may think I just teach Excel. You'll learn if you follow us, it's way more than just that. But I do have some questions for you. So I'm going to get you to participate with me, and I'm going to get a show of hands. How many of you use Excel every day? Raise them high. You use Excel every day. Okay, and if you're doing, keep them up, keep them up, keep them up. If you're doing not data stuff, like you're just looking at them, like data stuff would be working with CSVs and functions and pivots. So if you're not doing data type work, you can lower your hands. All right, so you're doing data work. Okay. For those of you who have your hands raised who do real data work, lower your hands if you're using Power Query. Okay, great. If you still have your hand raised, you need my classes coming in April, just in case you wondered if you needed. So as you all know, Power Query has been around for 6 years. It's a twofer game. You learn it in Excel, you know it in Power BI. And listen, I go back to the dial-up days. Remember the dial-up days when email was still edgy? I've probably taught 3,000 people how to use a mouse effectively. And over the last 5 years, over 3 million people across the world have consumed our content. We are consistently in the top of the LinkedIn Learning Library for data and tech. And you don't have to believe me. You can just ask Spencer back there, who's my producer, who just happened to be in town because he loves Birmingham. So welcome, Spencer. All right, so if you need a common language, I'll say this. We believe in CompTIA Data Plus. So if you're currently working to get the data skills in your organization up to speed, that's where you'll go. And I'll leave it with this. People ask me all the time, is AI going to take my job? And I would say AI will not take your job, but someone with better skills and a strong data foundation might. So I encourage you to watch our courses and validate whether you know it or not, which is absolutely a very data thing to do. So with that, I will turn it over, and hopefully I was under 4 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, I think like now more than ever, we should be asking the questions about data, and it's just all become so much more useful for all of us when we think about the problems that we're trying to solve. So I already mentioned this. Our mission is to accelerate the adoption of AI in Birmingham for all. That's what we hope to do today. We've got a really interesting talk, and we're not going to just be telling you stuff. We're going to be showing you stuff. You will leave here with a new tool that you didn't have coming into today. And like there will be messages sent after this of what you go and do this afternoon. And that's something that's really important to us here at Birmingham AI. But the future of Birmingham AI is also really important to us. We continue to get inbound requests to do more in Birmingham. There's just more and more opportunity to educate, to take action. And so to speak a little bit about this, I would like to invite Emily Jerkins-Hall up to the stage. Clap.
Good afternoon. How's everybody doing? Good. Well, it's really an honor to follow Robin, who's one of my favorite people. She is an expert on the national stage and a gift to Birmingham. So happy 14th birthday to Think Data. I have seen people's lives be changed by the work they do, and so grateful for them. So, I believe that communities that prepare for changes are the ones that thrive, and those that react fall behind. I've spent the past decade working in economic development, worked for a local AI startup the past year, and I've witnessed firsthand how disruptions can impact our economy. We see pandemics, trade disputes, tech advances, and communities that aren't prepared, like I said, fall behind. I worked next to a guy late last year who had AI agents speaking to each other, and I knew things were about to change. And I felt like as an economic developer, I needed to get back into the game and help community leaders prepare our economies across the country, but right here at home for what's next. And that's when, to much surprise and delight, I came across the Birmingham AI community, which is such a vibrant community, as all of you can see. But it's really more than a monthly meetup. It's a new economic development engine for our city, working to make AI a net job creator. And what Will and Austin have built is really remarkable. Over the past almost 2 years, over 1,500 folks have joined us to learn about AI, with over 200 folks crowded into the room each and every month. It's become quickly one of Birmingham's most popular and well-attended tech meetups. And it wouldn't be possible without supporters like our sponsor today, Think Data, And with the support from Microsoft stepping in as our first major funder, we're only just getting started. And I believe when busy entrepreneurs and professionals like Will and Austin step up to fill a gap in our community that is clearly meeting a demand, we in return should step up and support them. You know, I woke up this morning and I looked at the stock market. I'd encourage all of you to just not look at your 401k. It's just not a good way to start your day. And I thought this might be the worst time to launch a fundraising campaign. Like, what have I decided to do? But I actually, upon emailing with Will and Austin, I actually think it's the most important time for us to have a fundraising campaign for this. You see, Birmingham has historically lagged behind other metros in previous economic shifts. What we also know is that during downturns, technology advances. We saw it during 2008 with our iPhones and our apps. We saw it in 2020 with virtual meeting and Zoom. And I predict, I mean, we live in such an uncertain environment, so we don't know what's really going to happen, but the market's pretty volatile right now, and I only suspect that AI is going to pick up. So it's now important more than ever that we step up to make sure that during this economic shift that Birmingham does not lag behind, but we stay ahead of the curve and that we get our fair share of jobs, startups, and economic opportunity. And that's why I'm really honored to be leading the Founders Circle campaign to raise funds so that Will and Austin can spend a little more time on their day-to-day full-time businesses as entrepreneurs and hire someone to be their first full-time executive director, turning what has clearly been a success and volunteer-led initiative into something that can last and grow and continue to serve all of you in this room and beyond. I hope that you'll join us next month. This is a preview, and we wanted to preview with all of you because this is what makes this community special. And so at our May 14th meeting, we will share in more details how you can be a founding supporter of this vision. And I'd love to talk to you after if you'd like to be a part of that effort. We would love to leverage the time, talent, treasures, and network of all of you in order to make this possible. We really believe that together, we'll accelerate AI adoption in Birmingham for all and stay ahead of the curve. Stay tuned, and thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, like, you know, what we think about all the time is we want this to be someone's full-time job. We want someone working on this 24/7 and not just once or twice a month. And so that is really important to us. Please come and talk to us and help us make that a reality. So now we get into the fun part. Let's start showing off some of these tools. Let's start teaching you something and learning. First up, Peter Inge is going to give a presentation, followed by Karan. And then at the end here, we're going to have a panel with all three of us. And there will also be an opportunity for you to ask questions. So think up some good questions, save them to the end. And without further ado, Peter, take it away.
All right. Thank you. Sounds like the mic's working. Get my timer going. All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining today. I'm really excited to talk about the latest in AI coding and the tools in the landscape. You know, Will told me when talking to a crowd, it's good to think about your intention first. And the intention of this discussion is really just to educate you on what are the tools that exist in the AI coding ecosystem today, and then show you some examples of how they're actually used. I'll be showing a brief example. Karan will be showing an example of a product that's actually been built and functioning in real life. And hopefully by the end of the day, you'll just have a little bit of a taste of what is possible for technical and for non-technical folks. So for a quick background on me, I'm co-founder of DevClarity with Will. We're an engineering management platform based here in the Depot. Our whole mission is to drive high-performance software engineering teams. But perhaps more pertinent for this audience is the fact that I am not a software developer by trade. I started my career on Wall Street. I worked at an investment fund here in Birmingham, was previously CFO of a software company. And so I've had a lot of exposure to technology, but I've never had the ability to create anything myself because I did not have any formal education with software development. Now things are starting to change. With the advent of AI coding tools, which we have used heavily internally in building our own platform, I can start to build things myself. And not only does that allow me to bring some ideas to life, but I learn about actual software development as well. So I'm excited to show you some of the things that are going on in the AI coding world today. All right, before we kind of dive into it, I want to start with some introductions of personas. There's kind of two main groups of AI coding tools that I'm going to talk about today. And I want to introduce them through the lens of Peter and Will, wherever he is. So Peter has no formal coding education, as I mentioned. He's more focused on the product side than the engineering side. More frequently having sales calls and talking to customers and trying to iterate based on the things that you're hearing about. Oftentimes, Peter's trying to take the different pieces of information he has and visualize what he thinks the product should look like. But to date, he has not been able to build anything himself because, again, he doesn't know how to code. Will, on the other hand, is an experienced software developer. He does the heavy lifting on the engineering side. And a lot of what he does is helping translate the feedback from people like Peter and many others who have ideas on what things should look like and turning it into reality. For him, AI coding tools are helpful in taking his experience that he already has and allowing him to leverage it to build higher quality products even faster. So I wanted to introduce these two personas because they really help break down the two main categories of AI coding tools that I'm going to talk about today. These are not official technical terms. These are just the easiest way that we've found to think about them. AI app builders and AI code editors. And also, I see people taking pictures. That's awesome. We'll also send out some slides afterwards so you don't have to track all this. So in the AI app builder category, there's a handful of tools that have become really popular. Lovable, Replit, Bolt, and V0 by Vercel. Raise of hands, has anybody used any of these tools in the room? Okay, so a mixture. For context, what's happening in the space is crazy. Lovable's like 3 months old, based out of Stockholm, and has like 20 million in annual recurring revenue. On the other side, there are AI code editors. Cursor and Windsurf are the primary ones there, and we'll get into what these are. But again, raise of hands, has anybody used Cursor or Windsurf to write software? Okay, awesome, glad to hear that. Also for context, Cursor is less than a year old and is at 200 million in annual recurring revenue. So these are unprecedented growth rates in companies today. So very briefly, I'm going to get into what they are and who they're for, and then I'll try to make sure we have plenty of time to show you the solution themselves. So the AI app builders are full stack platforms that allow you to quickly build apps using human language only. So you do not have to know how to write code. It is obviously helpful, but you don't have to, and I'll show you an example of this at the end. They're accessible via web and mobile, and they're just generally built to be very easy to use. On the other end of the spectrum, there are the AI code editors. Again, Cursor, Windsurf are the main ones. These are basically like the environments that actual software developers are already using today to build software applications, but they have a built-in AI assistant to help them code faster, better, think through things more logically. So these are local applications on your computer. Coding knowledge, strongly recommended. You don't have to be a formally educated developer to use them. The way I know that is because I use them now, but you do need to have a good understanding in the fundamentals of software development and version control and things like that. So who they're for, the AI app builders are clearly being built for a more non-technical audience, building simple apps. Maybe simple is not even the right word, but apps for personal use or more simple use cases or prototypes, or people who are really focused on the design side or the front end side and really focused on how things look and interact from a user standpoint rather than more of the back end heavy lifting. I think the best use case for these tools are a tech company product person or an executive or founder who's trying to create prototypes and iterate quickly. Or like many of you today, someone who's just trying to build their first software application and wants to learn and see what's possible. The code editors are more tailored to technical audiences who are building more complex applications and really for people who are shipping production ready software today. So like at actual companies with software developers that customers will use. Best use case is an experienced engineer who's leaning heavily into AI to instantly increase their output, which we know is possible because again, we've done that ourselves. The core difference between these tools is really the spectrum of control that you have over the code. So on the left end of the spectrum, I've got Loveable, which is very user-friendly. This is the one I'll show you all. Very user-friendly, very design-oriented. You do not have to use coding at all if you don't want to. And in fact, you kind of have to make an effort to get into it, but you can. As you move a little bit further down the line, Replit is something that I've used a lot. It's still more geared towards agentic workflows where you're prompting in human language, but you can get into the code more easily because this is an actual web-based code editor. And then on the right-hand side is Cursor and Windsurf, where you have a very high level of control over the code, because like I said, it's basically what a normal developer environment is today with AI augmentation. So as I'm talking, I think you've almost certainly put yourself into one of these camps already. So raise of hands, who in this crowd would consider themselves technical? All right, pretty good mix. That's maybe 10, 20%. So non-technical? Okay. This is great because like we're gonna get into how these tools work for everyone. The examples I show are really probably most useful for non-technical, but they're useful for technical people too, depending on what your application is. In deciding which tool to use, there's a number of key considerations. You know, the main one is probably, or the first one is the skill of the primary user. Again, I'm being very repetitive, but I want this drilled into your head. If you know how to code, you're probably gonna use Cursor or something like that. If you don't know how to code, start with something like Loveable or Replit. Iteration speed versus technical depth. So it depends on what you're trying to build. If it's something that's very complex and has a lot of interconnected parts, you might choose the ones that have higher control over the code. If you're doing something very quickly and trying to mock up something, app builders are great for that. I mentioned organizational structure, and I honestly don't know what that even looks like entirely, but I just want to point out that if you're at a company and you're thinking about applying this, it's worth thinking about how this fits within your current tool stack and regulations and compliance and all that sort of stuff. And then of course, the most important thing is the desired outcome. Based on whatever goal you're trying to achieve, the tool to use becomes much more clear. But what if I told you that there was another way to use these tools? A third camp. The reality is that you don't have to limit yourself to one of these sets of tools or fit yourself to one archetype. We're so quick to put ourselves into buckets, and it's just not necessary, because the reality is that in the AI coding world, and really the world at large, the most powerful person is the one who can move fluidly between the different solutions that exist. So the person that can move fluidly between product and engineering, between customer problems and technical solutions, that's the Super Saiyan, and I think it's possible for anyone today. And so with that, I'm going to get into a demo of using Loveable. I'm going to try to build a personal budgeting app in 5 minutes or less. And it's possible because I've done it many times. I'm just hoping Wi-Fi and everything cooperates. So, all right, I think I've got everything. Yeah, okay. So I pulled up Loveable. You can see this is all just web-based. You don't have to install anything. Loveable.dev is the website I've chosen to use because it's just the easiest to work with. All of the app builders are gonna kind of look like this, where basically it's just gonna have a text box that says, what do you wanna build? I went ahead and put together a prompt for this example, so I'm gonna go ahead and paste it in. You can see I've said, design a personal finance dashboard that allows users to enter daily expenses, categorize and visualize, use dummy data, keep it simple, basically. Before I submit this, I want to point out a couple things. One, there's this little public button. Loveable defaults to public projects, which means anybody can see what you've built and interact with it, and that's totally fine for most applications. They have a cool feature where you can actually take other people's codes and tweak it to fit your preferences. I'm gonna stick with private for now. You can attach documents or images, screenshots, inspiration, that sort of thing. You can import from Figma, which is a design software, if that's something any of you use. And then there's some templates down below. But I'm gonna go ahead and submit this. Usually this takes a couple minutes. Hopefully this will take no more than 2 to 3 minutes. What's that? I have a paid version, but I believe Loveable's free version allows you to do like 5 prompts per day without paying for anything. So functionally, it's no different. If I start asking a bunch of questions, you would get rate limited. But it's like 20 bucks a month. All these things, I think the ROI is very high. Okay, so the way a lot of these app builders look, it's kind of all the same. The left-hand side is gonna be where you chat with the AI and just, again, in normal language, you don't have to be refined, you just say what you want. Right-hand side is generally where it shows you what it's doing. So it's gone ahead and it started working while I'm talking. It said, it's being really nice, love this idea, I'm gonna make a, a cool dashboard. It looks like Mint and YNAB, which are really popular personal finance tools. Loveable, I've noticed, does some cool things. It's going to tell me first what it's going to implement. So it says clean dashboard, expense entry, categorization, spending summary. That's kind of a lot. We'll see how much it can do in the time we have. And then Loveable is very design oriented. It tends to always look good. And so it's telling me what the palette it's using. And for anyone who's focused on UI or front end stuff, this is great because you can upload your whatever you normally use. And it's starting to run, and it has been running since I've been talking. If I click into this, just to show you, you can literally see the code being generated. There's really no point in watching it because it goes faster than you can probably process. But the cool thing is, it's not just showing the code. You can see here, it's showing like a dialogue of its logic. So it says at the top, yeah, let's create the overview component. So it's like narrating its steps and then doing it so you can see very clearly. Like I said, there's a real reason to watch that. Usually you fire it off and go get a soft drink or something and come back. All right, it's already done. I'm actually surprised. Didn't give me time to talk about. Okay, so this is actually good. So it said there's an error, and it's very good at debugging itself. This will happen depending on the complexity of the app. So I'm gonna press try to fix. And it'll start to fix and debug itself. So it just created something. The thing it created had an error, and it's now fixing itself. And I just pressed a button to say fix it. All right, so this happened faster than I was even planning on because there's a couple other things I wanna mention. So first of all, this is a functional financial dashboard. I wanna mention two things real quick before we get into it. One, up here in the top right, there's a button for dev mode. This is where you can see the actual source code and the directory and everything. So if you are technical or a developer or just trying to learn, you can edit things directly. It's just not the default. You can connect with Supabase, which is a database. So if you're creating an application where you actually need to store data, like in this case, if I wanted to actually use this myself and store financial data, I integrate with that. Links to GitHub, which is basically just a way to save your files, and you can publish it live to where I could publish this and all of you could access it on your phones right now. Okay, so we are in here. It is built the first version. Looks pretty good overall. So typically what you do, like the key thing is just to get to a good starting point. It's AI. If you do this prompt 10 times, which I have, you will get 10 different results. It should always look good. The important place is just getting to a starting point and then iterating based on your preferences. So typically what happens is it'll spit something out, I'll take a look. If there's something wrong or immediately off, I'll tell it, but otherwise I'll start to prompt. There's some edit features for Loveable specifically that are very design oriented. So you might be able to see, yeah, it's capturing different parts to where I can edit design components without doing a full prompt. For fixed text, yeah, I can actually just edit the text directly, which seems like a small thing, but otherwise you'd have to actually go into the code, and a non-technical person would never be able to do that without having like access to the code and knowing where to look. So there's little things like that that are nice. But let's take a look at the application itself. And then I know I'm at 15 minutes, so I'm gonna wrap up shortly. I just want to check, see if this is functional. So it's got some high level stuff at the top. It's got add new expense. I'm just gonna say $400, groceries, each. Publix, add expense. It added, I can see it right here. So this is a functioning application. Total spent is 2527. I didn't see what it was before, but it was probably, let's see, well, let me do this. Yep, 2528. So it's actually a functional dashboard. From here, for the sake of time, I'm not going to go too far into it, but what I would typically do is then say, okay, like this looks good. It's kind of scrunched, I don't love it. I'm going to space this out and see a little bit. That looks a little bit better, but I would just tell it in plain human language, like, looks pretty good, but I want to see the pie chart up top, or I want to add this functionality. You get it to look how you want it to, and then I would start to add kind of meatier functionality. I might say, okay, let's add the functionality to upload credit card statements or CSVs so it has my actual data, and it will do it, and it will work. And so really the whole process is just a matter of asking what you want, iterating. A key point, final point, is that there's restore button, so each time it does something, it effectively creates a checkpoint. So you can do version control very easily. You try something, looks bad, and you can't figure out, you just restore back and you're back to where you were. So this is a very quick taste, but I mean, we built a functional personal financial dashboard in like 4 minutes. I hope you can understand the implications of this, and we'll start to see some more, but the world is your oyster, and really what this does is it removes a barrier to create things that previously existed. And so now, if you have a good idea, you can build something, and you can also learn to actually code using these tools. So I think with that, I'll hand it over to Karan.
Awesome. Thank you, Peter. Yeah, who's like blown away from that? Anybody blown away from that presentation? Hadn't seen anything like that before. I see some hands. We're going to have questions in the panel section at the end. So save those questions, write it down so you don't forget it. But to Peter's point there, like you can now, even if you're not technical, start to explore some of these ideas. Whatever's in your head, that thing, oh, I've got this idea to visualize this, or hey, this challenge inside our organization, I think there's something we can fix there. Or this new product opportunity that, hey, like right now, I would have to go write up a document explaining that process and then send it to the development team and wait 12 weeks. And we would spend a lot of money on that process, right, before we get something back. You can now move much quicker with these tools. I think we're almost ready, and here we are. So here is part 2 of the presentation. Thank you, Karan.
All right. Hey, everyone. Can you hear me well? Yeah? Awesome. My name is Karan. I'm a product manager at Harmony Venture Labs. That's down the street on Morris Avenue. And today I'm going to talk to you about how I had an idea at work that I wanted to turn into a prototype, and I used Bolt to do that in about 48 hours, 2 days. Before we get into the deep weeds of Bolt and the specific idea I was working on, I want to give you some context about what we do at Harmony Venture Labs, because I'm going to be jumping from a lot of topics, and it might be a little hard to follow. Trust me, I do it every day. It's still a nightmare. Harmony Venture Labs is a venture studio where we build multiple softwares that serve different industries for niche problems that we find in them. For example, we have a transaction coordination software to help real estate transaction coordinators work better. We've also built software for co-working spaces and e-commerce businesses. And so our process is pretty simple. We find a problem, we build a solution, we ship it, and we keep iterating. The key is we need to move fast. And moving fast in the space of building things means we need a lot of manpower. Unfortunately, in January of this year, we lost a few of our designers, and that slowed us down a lot. But we didn't want to just sit twiddling our thumbs waiting for our designers to come in. We wanted to still keep that momentum. And so we turned to AI. That's the high-level context. Now I'm going to zoom into the specific project I was working on and kind of what specific problem I was trying to solve. Sound good to everyone? Perfect. So the project I was working on was called Review Insights. Review Insights is a feature that we have in one of our companies called Rave Capture, which helps e-commerce merchants collect reviews. So whether you're selling products on Amazon, eBay, Walmart, Target, when you sell your physical products, you collect reviews and you display them on your website. But then after that, they just kind of sit there and don't do much for you in the long run. We decided to take these reviews and see if we could repurpose them to give you business intelligence. So inside our application, our e-commerce merchants were putting their reviews through OpenAI and getting product, marketing, and even label packaging insights on how to improve their business and increase their revenue just using their reviews instead of only depending on their customer support. This seemed to be really valuable for our existing customers, and we believed we could use this to get more. So how do we take this feature from in-app that took 4 months to develop with 6 people and throw it up onto our website, a lot lighter, a lot easier to use, in 2 days? That's where Bolt came into play. Now I'm going to just jump out of this presentation and go through the steps I took to go from this problem statement to a working prototype that mimicked the in-app functionality. before I do that, does anyone have any questions about anything I ran through? No? Good, okay. So the first thing I did, and this is a point Will has asked me to emphasize, is I had a problem, I wanted to solve it, I went to ChatGPT. Do the same thing. I went to ChatGPT and I hit the voice to text button, and I just kind of rambled out asking ChatGPT to help me write a PRD for this topic. I'm a product manager. This is the one complicated lingo we have. Let us have it. A PRD is just a long description of the product you want to build. It covers goals and objectives, problem statements, key features. The reason why I'm bringing this up now and emphasizing it is because I didn't write this PRD, ChatGPT did, and it brought up different avenues to think about the solution you're building. I was strictly thinking about what it would look like, maybe, you know, where you can touch it, like what buttons you have. But ChatGPT brought up, in a technical sense, it re-elaborated the problem statement, brought up a user flow, dependencies, timeline, like everything. And it just has you question and really think about your solution before you go and start building and potentially wasting time. If you see something here that you don't like, or you have questions that are left unanswered, it's better to get them out of the way now before you jump into Bolt and kind of go in circles with Bolt. So once I was happy with this PRD, I just copied all the text and I threw it into Bolt, which is right here. Bolt looks very similar to Loveable. So I'm not going to go through all the very specifics, but I put it in this chat box, and this is what Bolt spit out. I will be fully transparent. This has now been worked on for over about 2 to 3 weeks, so it looks a little different, but at its core, you saw what Loveable did. Bolt did this for us, where it gave us an opportunity to allow an e-commerce merchant who's interested in understanding more about the reviews to just hit one simple button and see what AI can do for them as an example first. The biggest thing to note is that a lot of the functionality that Bolt has, you need to ask it to do it. It usually, in its first pass, will stand up a more design-heavy, clickable prototype, but it doesn't still collect information or send emails or actually analyze data for you. And so I had to ask Bolt to do that. So I'm just going to jump into the application straight, like the website version of this, so we can play around with it, and I can walk you through each part of it, what I had to ask Bolt to do. So the first thing that you can see is the try with sample reviews button. Someone would have seen our ad on Facebook or Instagram and clicked this and opened this up on their phone or their computer and hit try with sample reviews. Bolt designed a loading animation and showed an example of what review insights looks like. All of this design, the layout, the buttons, the logos, every color scheme you see, I had no part to play in it except saying yes or no, because Bolt did a way better job at designing than even I could. So I just looked at it, I liked it, and we approved it and put it on the live site. Further, now let's say you're happy with these results and you're like, I want to use my own reviews to see what this website can do. You can just scroll up here, hit analyze my reviews, and then we give you 2 options. A lot of e-commerce merchants don't have reviews easily available, and some of them do. So we gave 2 options where either you could email us and we'd reach out to you, or you could take a CSV, Excel sheet, and just put it into this uploader and do the analysis right there and then. So before I show you the analysis, I'll just break down the 2 components we see here. With Bolt, we were able to create a box where you put your email in, and it would send us the email that we could then put in or a Gmail or whatever to reach out to people. And to enable that, all I had to do was ask Bolt to do it. I'm just going to keep repeating that point, that I told Bolt, put an email input button, let users type it in, and send it to Supabase. That's where you store your data. And for the CSV uploader, that's where I think things got a little more challenging. The problem with e-commerce reviews is that different places, Amazon, Target, Walmart, all export your reviews very differently. So each file looks different from the last. And so how do you build a formula that can easily read these differently formatted files without getting confused? You don't. You just ask Bolt, can we use AI to read the files differently? And then it did. So it built 2 different functionalities using OpenAI. The first one is you can throw practically any kind of CSV into the uploader, and one function will just read through the file and try to identify what review text is more subjectively than a numerical formula can. The second function will then look at the collected review text and give you your insights. I'm going to show you, this is the CSV I'm using. It's just a bunch of reviews. I'm going to throw them into Bolt, or into our web page actually. And hopefully everything works and it doesn't break. But yeah, while this is happening, it might take a minute or two. Does anyone have any questions right now? Why did you choose Bolt over the other product? Because I didn't know about the other product. My boss is very adamant about using us using tools, and Bolt was the last one I heard. Jumped onto Bolt. Great question. Would I recommend Loveable over Bolt though? If you are less technical, as Peter said, just to get your feet in the water. But again, I am not at all technical. My job as a PM is just basically to talk to people, to do discovery calls, understand what they need, and then tell my team what to build and facilitate it. I confidently say I've never written a line of code to build a software before, and after Bolt, I can still confidently say I've never written a line of code to build a software. So yeah, that's kind of where I went with it. I just let the wind take me. But yeah, this analyzed real reviews and gave real insights now that you can see. You can see the supporting reviews are ones that I had pulled up in the CSV. And you can see the split. It's a very tiny segment, so they're all positive reviews, but you get the picture. There's even product names with the reviews associated to the product names. And yeah, if you're still interested, email us. But yeah, this was live and running. Right now it says gleeful bubblegum because it's been taken offline, but this was saying insights.ravecapture.com. We connected it to our real company website. I asked Bolt how to do that, and it told me how to do that, and so we did that. Shocker. And yeah, it was a really fun experience, and I think it really sped up everything I wanted to do so much faster. Let me go back to the presentation really quick. Just some closing points. Here are my 3 tips for Bolt. Oh, sorry. Before that, I want to summarize what I just showed you. What we built with Bolt was a tool that could look through all your reviews, give you your top 3 products, your bottom 3 products, and why they're underperforming. This gets really hard when you have thousands of reviews, and we just built something so quickly. Users could try out a sample analysis and understand the tool better, and they could leave us an email that we could reach out to them if they wanted to know more. This would have taken at least 2 weeks if it was just being done manually the old way. So this is really helpful to get used to. My tips are, the first one, if you don't know something, please ask Bolt or ChatGPT. It will teach you to do what even you don't know how to do. Write the PRD, get the wide scope that you want to see, and investigate different schools of thought before committing to one. And really challenge yourself, challenge the AI. It'll be a lot better in the long run because you're exhausting almost every option then. Another thing I ran into with Bolt was when I was designing, I wasn't being specific. I was asking for logo changes without specifying which logo, and all the logos were getting changed, and then the page sizing was getting messed up, and I lost a lot of progress. So just try and be specific. They also have a system now that was demonstrated. You can just highlight what you want edited, but it's also good to just know component names and be specific. Last thing I'd like to say is get started now. I'm sure if you're here on a Wednesday, you are willing to go out of your way because you have a lot of ideas in your mind. You saw what I did in 2 days. There are probably people out there who have the same ideas that you do, who could move faster than you, and that's where the whole AI taking your job comes into play. So I really stress, if you have an idea, take some time today evening, just 3 hours maybe, get it put onto Bolt. It doesn't have to be a big entrepreneurial idea. It could be something at work. It could be a fitness calendar. Whatever you want to do. Just get your hands into AI. Don't be scared. It'll teach you what to do. But yeah, thank you.
All right, I'm going to ask y'all to come back up and get seated in some chairs. In the meantime, get out your phones because we got some QR codes, people. Tomorrow night, I have the honor of leading our engineering breakout. If you're someone who won't to go more technical and get into the details, this is for you. I get to talk about Model Context Protocol. Has anybody heard of MCP or seen all the hype buzz posts on social media about them? Well, great. This is a way that developers are able to connect into external tools and external systems and really just take using AI and coding with AI to the next level. It's going to be fun. We now feed you pizza and give you beer tomorrow night. There's no beer here, so if you're a developer, show up tomorrow night. And then next month, we are going to be doing this again. Go ahead and get your ticket now so you can block it on your calendar because everybody has things that pop up. Let's go ahead and get that saved. RSVP to next month's meetup. We're going to have another great topic that we'll focus on. And I'll give everybody one more minute for that. Oh, what is that? Just like, oh, there we go. Wait. Yay. Let me go back full. So if nobody shows up to my talk tomorrow night, it's because of the QR code issue. And then one more as we start to get into the panel is that we're excited to announce that before next month's meetup, we're going to do a non-technical hackathon using the tools you just saw. So you have 1 month to get ready or just do nothing and then show up to the hackathon. And we're going to be giving you credits with Loveable to start to build your first app. Think about a problem that you have in your personal life or even better in your business. Oh, same thing? Yeah, duh. And yeah, sign up now, come to it. There's going to be limited spots for it. We'll probably make sure anybody who RSVPs is actually going to show up. But we're just really excited about this because we want to continue to give people tools to do more. And it's clear that this has a massive impact. When 80% of people in the room are non-technical and these tools exist, we want you to start playing with them. And I think some of those type of questions will come up in the panel discussion. So, oh, goodness. Let me just sit down. Let's just start the panel. I'll leave that up there. All right, Maggie's here to help us with the microphone. So if anybody in the audience wants to ask a question to these presenters, myself, please raise your hand and we'll get you the microphone. Try to keep your questions short so we can get through lots of the audience questions. Who's up? Maggie, you can lead it.
Can I speak? Okay. I just want to know, so you mentioned 2 applications. I think it was called, so when it comes to like AI coding models, one second, Cursor and
Windsurf.
I think on you can themselves. What do those applications have compared to like visual code with OpenAI or ChatGPT in them?
Yeah, that's a great topic we'll get into more detail about tomorrow night. But just very quickly, the question is instead of using Cursor or Windsurf, why should developers like leave their existing Microsoft tools? These tools have just really been built from the ground up to make using AI automatic and getting better code output from AI automatic. And for a lot of people, that's not happening inside VS Code or their existing Microsoft editors. Good question, though.
So it's evident that AI has taken massive strides, and we've been able to build so many applications so fast. But how can AI be integrated with existing code bases, and how does it maybe tie in with CI, CD, or QA in that regards?
Is that me too? I think again that is a topic we'll dive more into tomorrow night. But the answer is try out one of those tools we mentioned, Cursor or Windsurf, and you'll start to see that happen pretty quickly.
But is this on? Yeah. But one of the things that is really interesting if you're using the app builders is you can create functional code, functional apps and code that you can then hand off to the engineering team to integrate with the existing apps. it is more technical, but it is also possible.
Hi. Super great presentations. Just thinking about as you're starting to build these initial apps, how do you ensure that you continue to keep your customer and your data privacy secure as you're working with these? Seems like that's not something that's necessarily baked into these apps from the start.
I will give my more non-technical answer, and then y'all are welcome to add in. One, again, it depends very much on what you're building, right? Like a lot of people using app builders are just building, like I've built a habit tracker and meal planner, things like that just to learn. So if learning is your objective and you're just using it for yourself, it doesn't matter. I don't think someone who's non-technical is really producing enterprise software at this point, but there are some simple applications that you could build that customers would use that you would need to be aware of kind of security and data concerns. A default answer, which I think you mentioned a lot for a lot of these things, is ask AI. That is not foolproof, but talk with AI and give it context. So I will literally say, sometimes it's more sophisticated than others. Like, I'm non-technical, I am learning to code, I don't know how to do X, Y, Z, so like break this down easily. And at the end, I can get AI to check it all. So like, are there vulnerabilities? Are there things I'm not considering? But I'll let y'all chime in if there's.
Yeah, I mean, from my non-technical understanding, we store all our data in Supabase, and that's a lot safer to use than trying to store it natively on your computer or whatever. And so that keeps it safer, right?
Yeah. But what would be the next step, like at HVL? Like, let's say we want to go all in on that product. What's the next step?
Well, let me jump, not this tool, because this was more of, we had something that existed and then we turned it into a smaller version. There was another design that we were working on for the real estate software that we started off as a functioning prototype because we didn't have a designer. We still are at the phase where we'll map out all the flows and the visuals on it using Bolt or Loveable, but real actual implementation in app is done by a developer. So it just speeds up the design process right now.
Yeah. And I think, just real quick, it's like super valuable for a developer to get something that they can actually like use and click around with. Like, how many times is the back and forth like, oh, is the corners are supposed to be rounded to 12 pixels, and it's like the small nuanced things that don't really matter. And now if we can really get the prototype that's solving the problem for the user, speaking as a developer myself, that's going to help me build out what we need at the end of the day. So a lot of this is validate it and then pass it off to the development team to implement the final solution. Yeah. Yep.
I had a question about the using the tool. What are the intellectual property implications? Do they own the resulting code? And does it change whether you put the public or private setting that you showed us on Loveable?
In terms of owning the code, I feel certain that is not the case. I'm not going to act like I've read all the fine print, but these are, for context, these tools are raising money at valuations in the tens of billions of dollars in some of them. So there's a lot of incentive for this to be done right. So I'm not very concerned about IP. I don't know the fine print. With the public example that I mentioned, though, that of course would be different, because in that scenario you're literally making your source code public. But just like you can do with a GitHub project or something like that. So if you keep it on private and you build an app, it is yours. But yeah, if you put it on public, obviously anyone can use that code for their own purposes. He's a lawyer, so I trust him.
Yeah, I have a question. So you showed a demo of a product that in 2 days you built. So previously, I think a lot of things, most people here are entrepreneurs, they have small companies. here in the depot. So an edge was that you had an engineering team. It was a higher barrier entry for anyone to just copy what you're doing. But now if I can do it in 2 days, then does that mean I can just copy any one company here in 2 days? And what's the edge now?
That's an excellent question. I think the functionality is still limited. So no, you can't copy Google, but yes, you could copy someone who has a relatively simple prototype. I don't think the edge in the entrepreneurship game has ever really been whose products operate as similarly to each other. Like tomorrow, if somebody successfully recreate Google and everything it did, it's still the same as Google. Why would you use that, right? Your edge would be understanding the customer, looking at your competition, and using Loveable or Bolt to build something better for the customer than what your competition is built. I think that's always the edge that I fundamentally believe in. Yes, I'm non-technical, guys. I don't have some secret coding answer here. Is if you can understand your customer better than the person you're trying to compete with, you will build a better solution than them, and then you don't have to copy them. Does that make sense? Do you want to challenge that? Huh?
I could challenge that because, what you're saying, understanding customers and these things, most companies or whatever, they're already doing that. And you're saying Google, that's already an established player, but companies here in the depot are not established generally. They're not market dominance. So how can they, now it's become more competitive because if technology, they had to do rounds of funding to build teams to do stuff. And now we don't need all those people. Some of that barriers of entry that people built up has eroded. So now, even though I'm sure a lot of people here are really excited about these products, but just as easy it is for any of us to build something, your competition can build it just as fast or maybe even faster. So I think I'm just saying like what edge people should be looking for, because technology is no longer the edge that you can hold.
Yeah, I've definitely thought about this a lot. My background was investing. I've done public and private investing, and the nature of competitive advantages has changed. And so that's a very important thing to think about if you're an entrepreneur or starting a company or have any stake in a company. There is not a competitive, unless you were like doing something deep tech, where there's like truly hard to replicate technically. For the average SaaS product, which I put most software companies in that bucket, the edge will not be your tool. Like you can replicate pretty functional apps very quickly. I literally typed in one time, create me a replica of Todoist, which is one of my favorite apps, and it did a pretty good job with one prompt. So then you have to ask yourself, and this is what I'm most interested in, is what are the second order implications of a world where you can do these types of things? And inevitably, the competitive advantages that exist are more qualitative. And so it is things like customer relationships and personal brand, and a very deep understanding of the problem is always really one of the key things. But yeah, it absolutely changes things. It also changes the capital efficiency equation and how much money you need to raise to create a viable company, which is a good thing for founders.
Yeah, and I think we're going to have time for one more question, but just to add to that too, like distribution, community, those are the things that will matter more in this new world. So like our goal is to show you the tools and make you just as fast as everybody else out there, but we're not gonna just like lie to you and tell you that everyone else is still gonna be stuck in the 90s or whatever, right? Like everyone else is gonna be moving just as fast, and so we need to be thinking about these things.
I wanna add one final point on that. I'm from Birmingham. I've lived and worked in different places, but one of the challenges in the entrepreneurial ecosystem has been lack of capital, or that's one of the certainly as compared to New York or California or something like that. This is an advantage for places like Birmingham because you don't need millions of dollars to build a high-performing software application. So a community like ours should leverage these tools as well as possible, because then you're not reliant on external capital to build something and test a theory.
Last question, guys.
Okay, this is maybe a good one to end on. I'd love a non-technical opinion and a technical opinion on this. Where do you feel like all of this is headed with programs like this? Do you feel like this is, and I'll just give you two examples in my head. Do you feel like this is going to lead to hundreds of thousands of more entrepreneurs in 5 years building things? Do you feel like this is going to lead to large companies right now just doing things bigger and better? Where do you think that this is all going? Tough one to answer, but
I do think this plays well into the rise of the solopreneur, where you're starting to see some crazy examples of like 5-person companies having like 10. I mean, actually, these companies themselves are examples of that, where it's like Cursor is a 30-person team of a bunch of 25-year-olds from MIT, and they have 200 million in recurring revenue. So I think it's gonna be barbelled. I think there's gonna be the rise of the solopreneur, like one or a small sub-5 can do a lot. And then I think enterprises that leverage tools like Cursor and Windsurf at scale will win the enterprise game. The middleman might get a little squeezed.
I agree. I think we're democratizing the access to building functional prototypes, which was once unheard of. I also think we can safely say most of the jobs we have here didn't exist about 100 years ago, right? And that I'm excited to see new jobs that we don't even know what they look like. I think you guys are hiring like a chief AI director as well, right? There are a lot of companies hiring chief AI officers. There are jobs and roles that are being created now with the rise of tools like this and with AI becoming more powerful that we can't even predict yet. And I'm excited to see where they come from as well. It's kind of where I'm at about it.
Yeah, and I'll finish by just saying, like, let's just raise our ambition and like target whoever we want to target. Like, we will be able to compete. We can go after these big things. I think thinking that, excuse me, these larger enterprises are going to change the way that they do things overnight. I think it's not going to happen. And I think that's a massive opportunity for us who get in there and we solve better problems. We solve the right problems. And so go after the problems as quick as we can. With that said, let's give a round of applause for these two people. And thank you all for coming. We hope to see you next month. Thank you so much. Goodbye.